Hello everyone, it's me, Theory, and I'd like to welcome you all to my nerdy life as an Army wife. Here, we will be exploring my experiences as a military wife and the different ways that I cope with the stress. Welcome to my journey. Welcome to episode 1, The Enlistment. Tyrion has obviously decided to join me today, so please enjoy this little fur baby that you see in the bottom corner, as he will probably meow multiple times throughout the session. But it's just one of those things you can't control when a cat decides that he wants to be part of show business. First things first, let's talk about the decision that my husband and I made for him to join the military. He is a former Marine. He had spent 4 years in the Marines, and once he finished his tour, he came back, and he's been out of service for about 5 years, just under 5 years. And in that time, he was making his attempt at living the dream that most streamers have, of trying to make a go out of it with him and his friends, and the numbers weren't going the way that they anticipated, which, happens for most streamers as it is. It's not the end of the world. Then he decided to go back to school on the GI Bill, and once he realized that school really just wasn't for him, and that civilian life really just wasn't cutting it for him, the lack of respect that comes with civilian jobs, that people just disrespect management, management isn't trained properly to handle situations and lead. He just realized that wasn't the life that he wanted, and to be able to provide for me and our family. We started discussing him rejoining the military, and when that came down to being really the only thing that would make him happy, we went ahead and started the enlistment process with the recruiting office here where we live. I should have spoke up more in this process, because I had always, in the back of my mind, I never wanted to be a military wife. I never wanted to deal with a lot of the issues that can come with being in a relationship with someone in the military. And that's just entirely been my personal preference. The military definitely changes a person. The way that they deal with drill sergeants, and there is no questioning your authority when it comes to it. That type of mindset that can really change a person, I never wanted to deal with. And I thought that since Mark had already been through that process, that I probably wouldn't have to deal with it again. But when you really see the person that you love, their passion is when they talk about their time in the military. Their joy comes from the time when they talk about when they were in the military. Things like that. It's really, really hard to say no to them when you feel like you would be crushing their dream. I should have definitely been more vocal about that during the process, as it's only come to bite us in the butt later in the conversations and arguments that we've had since he's been gone. So step number 1 is, don't let that communication shut down. If you are feeling any certain type of way when you're going through a decision process that is this major and is going to change both of your lives so drastically, you need to open up and express those concerns then, so that you can work them out. And you're not working them out when they're on a military base through the phone or through FaceTime or things like that. You need to really discuss them and work them out before that happens. I didn't do it the way that I'm telling. If I could go back and give myself advice, that's the advice that I would give myself then, as we would have been able to work out those issues before he left, instead of me harboring those feelings of anger before that he did did leave. So that process was made in February. We decided to go ahead and start the enlistment process. And of course, when it comes, we weren't married at the time, we were just engaged. And when we start going and talking to the recruitment officers, they getting married sooner rather than later was the best decision for us to do at that time, as if he would go off to training, to boot camp, to anything like that, and I were to be left behind if we were not married, that basically leaves me SOL. I have no benefits. I'm not treated as anything of importance, even though that there is a ring on my finger and a proposal and an intent to get married. So everything really got rushed up. We got married very quickly. Within 4 days, we were able to, get everything, our timeline moved up. It was a small ceremony. It was about 6 minutes long. And all of that happened. And then we were ready for him to ship out, starting the beginning of March. Well, as most of you are aware, that is when the COVID-19 pandemic started wreaking havoc in the United States. So, his ship out got postponed. Everything basically shut down. There was no shipments, no boot camp starting, all of this. So everything that I had mentally prepared myself for him leaving, for all of these things happening, boom, stop. Work started to get crazy. I work in retail, considered an essential employee. So I was working every single day, working my butt off, dealing with the toilet paper shortages, all of these things, the people screaming in my face, the people trying to hoard all of these products, so you having to tell them. So my life got extremely busy and extremely stressful. So that quality time that we would have been able to have before he left basically didn't turn into that time where we were able to spend time together as much, knowing that at any point we would be getting a call letting that, okay, here's your training, we're ready to send you to MEPS, which is basically the place where they go and they get their physical and they pass all these tests to make sure that they are fit for duty. And that's where you also pick what your job's going to be. We just knew that at any point in time that we could get a call and be like, hey, we're sending you to MEPS and he's going to be shipping out. So during all of this COVID crisis, there was always that tension that at any point in time that he would leave and we wouldn't have had any quality time to spend together before he had to go. It did end up being, so all of March, all of April, all of May, so 3 months that we waited, and then in the middle of May we started getting calls letting us know that MEPS was going to be opening back up, and then we started the process again where he got his physical, he chose his MOS, and then at the end of May he would be shipping out to Fort Huachuca in Arizona. So June 1st, well, I guess it would have been May 31st, and he had got to Fort Huachuca on June 1st. So I was able to take like a week off before he left to spend time with him, which didn't really turn into that much of quality time with him because he had so many friends that he wanted to say goodbye to, and they were at our house every day, or he was out with them every day. And it's another thing where I didn't speak up when things were bothering me because I really wanted time with my husband, and I kept having to share that time with the other people in his life, which sounds extremely selfish, but at the same time, I'm the wife. I'm the person that it is going to be dealing with his absence the most. And I should have said something a lot more about people being at our house the entire time, because I regret it. I regret not getting a night to ourselves, or a day to ourselves, or one more date, just the two of us. I regret it so much. Um, so then he's shipped out. He's gone. He go with it being the COVID pandemic. When he gets to his base, they put him in a room for 14 days, and he is in a very strict quarantine for those 14 days. They bring him food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and he does not leave that room. And at this time, we were not prepared for this process, so he only had a book and his cell phone. Tyrion James. This is not a toy. Sorry about that. So he really was going crazy during this time. I was getting calls a lot of the time during the day, because it's not like they had restrictions on what they could do in their room, but because he was limited to what he had, spent probably the majority of his time on Reddit, because anytime that you're with him, that's what he's doing. He's on his phone, he's on Reddit, or FaceTiming me multiple times a day, which is great, but it got to be a lot, because there wasn't really anything changing anytime that we would have a conversation. We didn't really have an update about things. And our conversations weren't very, like, there wasn't that much quality to our conversations, because there just wasn't a lot. So there was that. Before he left, we decided that we got a kitten to try and, like, give me something to do while he was gone, something to take care of, a little, like, pet project, which turned out to be the worst idea we could have ever made. With everything going on, with how busy work is, me being gone a lot, just not a good environment for the kitten. And when things got really, really stressful, because of course none of the paperwork was done properly. We had to basically redo almost everything, resend our marriage certificate, all of this stuff, because he wasn't getting paid while he had gotten shipped out. And for every excuse that the military has is COVID. No one was prepared for this. No one was prepared for what to do in this situation. It's extremely disorganized and hectic. So basically, any time that this little kitten would do something that was just him being a kitten, I was associating it with all of the other frustrations that I was having. And we made the decision to actually send the kitten back to his foster, so that they could find a home that would suit him better. Because it's definitely not the cat's fault. He was just being a cat. He needed a lot of attention. And when I'm sitting at home crying nearly every night because I don't know how we're going to eat or live or anything for the week, a little kitten who wants to play and is biting and all of that is just the last thing that I could do. So we made the decision to send him back, and it was a really, really good decision for my mental health, and it was a good decision for Tyrion. I kept thinking that they were getting along better than they were. Tyrion wasn't really eating because the other cat was just kind of would just push him out of the way and eat all of his food. So Tyrion lost a lot of weight, and now that he has been gone, Tyrion has been much more loving. The cat that he normally is, who's always in my lap, he's back to that. And my boy, and that's really what I need, is when I'm feeling down, a cat that's gonna come sit in my lap and let me hold him and cry and just be there for me. And that's exactly what Tyrion is for me. So basically for over a month we weren't getting any sort of payment from the military, which was causing a lot of stress in at home, and our phone conversations were extremely stressful. There was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of crying, our communication really was just going down the tubes at this point, because every single time that he would call, I felt like I was getting more bad news, because he's not even starting his class yet. So when he was supposed to be home in October, now we're looking at November to potentially an entire year. But it was just little bits of information that he was withholding, because he was afraid of how I would react and how much it would hurt and make me sad, and he didn't want to do that. Which is really what sparked my next step in the process, which is deciding to go to therapy, which I had my very first session today, and it went well. I was able to open up, and we are now getting steps on how to improve our communication from a distance while dealing with the restrictions that the military has on how often you're really able to communicate. And I really hope that things just continue to improve, because I love this man to death. He's so important to me. He's my rock. And not having him here when things are as stressful as they are has been really, really difficult for me. I never wanted to rely on a person. I always was, I'm a strong, independent woman and I don't need anyone. And I don't. And I did fine before him. But it's when you finally find that person that you realize that you don't have to do everything on your own. And you start to learn that this person can build you up and help take the burden from you and share the burden with you. And then all of a sudden they're gone, and you think you're going to be fine because you were that strong, independent person before. But life just got easier with him being by my side and helping me through stressful situations that when they're away, you realize that you don't want to go back to that person that you were before them. And we're just trying to find the best way to not make me go back to that person, but to still be able to be there for each other and to be strong for each other when there is so much distance. Which is the struggle that I think every military couple goes through. And really why I wanted to make this series something that I share with the world. Because if I can help one other military wife or military spouse who's going through this separation that I am, and they can see that it's okay to be upset. You don't have to hide from people that you're upset and that you miss your significant other, you miss your spouse. Like that, all of that is fine. And I want to be as transparent as possible through this process, so that anyone can experience it with me, maybe help me go through this process, and maybe I can help someone else. Whew. I didn't think that I was going to cry, because I literally just talked about all of this in therapy, but it's okay. It's okay to feel and to express yourself and let it be what it is, because there's no shame in feeling the way that you feel, and don't ever let anyone tell you that your feelings are invalid just because someone might have Yeah, I understand that there are a million other people out there that have other problems and have worse problems and harder life. But that doesn't take away the fact that my feelings are not valid and that what I'm going through isn't a stressful process. So, thank you all for tuning into my first episode here. Please ask any questions that you have. I will answer them. I do plan on going into a little bit about our relationship and how we met, and definitely keep updates going on how my sessions in therapy are going and different ways that we are coping and working on our communication issues so that you can see this journey as I'm going through it, as he's going through it. But if there's anything, please comment with questions and I will reach out to you and answer them. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Stay nerdy. Play some video games out there. Read a book. Take some time for some self-care.